This little piggy went to the movies. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had mom's French toast and deconstructed scallops. And this little piggy got its bangs brushed in by tweakers in Sandy, Oregon. And Nick Cage went weep, weep, weep all the way home. Quiet.
That's cinema, baby.
No, Mr. Wilson. I don't have to take that kind of talk from anyone.
That's right, you don't. How about going outside and trying to kick me around?
I'm not supposed to fight with the guests, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not a guest tonight, you yellow bastard. I happen to be an intruder.
Hello and welcome to The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, a film podcast where we pair movies to garner a better understanding of the filmographies of notable directors or actors, etc. That's what we usually do. This season, we're doing a redux of shit we've already covered. I'm your co-host, Ken.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Ryan.
And we are joined for part one of this two-part pairing by Jack.
Hi.
Somalia.
Okay,
Jack.
good up.
So on The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, we often do a deep dive on the paired films, do comparisons between them, adding our sometimes insightful insights. And Pig is the first one this week, and Jack picked it. We're going to ask him a little bit about why he added it to his list of just two movies. We each picked two, and this was one that Jack picked. And it's also the first movie we saw after lockdown in 2021.
That's right. Well, I picked it because I wanted to watch it again.
What? What's funny about that? That's a legitimate reason.
That's great.
Some of us watch the films that we talk about, Ryan. No spoilers for next week.
This is one that, we went and saw it, and for one thing, I fell asleep, and rewatching it, I was like, oh shit, I actually missed a lot the first time. When I
Wait, did you fall asleep in the theater?
Yes, I did.
You weren't the person snoring when I watched it, was?
I might have been. But this is one where I was lukewarm on it originally, and over the years, because it's been
4 years.
Many years now. Yeah. The more I've thought about it, it's one of those things where it's lived on in my memory as better than the experience of actually watching it. And to add on to that, last year I got super, super into Portland history and read a lot of books about the history of downtown and the Shanghai tunnel hoax and all that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of that baked into this movie that I find really interesting. And I don't think there's enough media about it at all.
Why are y'all sleeping on this?
Right? It's real interesting.
Not enough people are talking about it. We are.
Do
Do the research.
Yeah,
and
do your research.
I love a movie set in Portland. I don't think there are enough of them. So I'm a little biased towards the movie because of that, I think.
Well
said.
Since we watched this film in theaters, we've covered a few other films from 2021. And those include Prisoners of the Ghostland and Willy's Wonderland. So Nick Cage had 3 in 2021. Cry Macho and West Side Story.
Ooh, okay, West Side Story. That was a good one.
That's pretty good.
And then the never released Don't Look Up episode from our Streep series.
Never recorded, never released.
So we know that this has been most of our second watches. Ryan, you weren't on the first ep. Sorry to wake you there, buddy. What, is this your first time?
What did you say?
I'm assuming that might be your second.
Seen Pig?
Yeah.
No, this was a first watch for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just got back from saying goodbye to my aunt, so I missed a couple minutes of what you guys said.
Wow, you're in a really good mood for. Oh, I mean, she's leaving town.
Yeah.
I thought, like, goodbye. Say, why are you laughing?
Should I tell you what I felt about the film, The Picture Pig? Is that where we're at?
Nope. You haven't missed that much.
How long do you think you were gone?
I don't know.
You're also sick today, right, Ryan?
I got a sick head. Yeah. I got boogers coming out my eyes, man.
Oh.
That's real.
You and my dog both.
Don't have children.
Or dogs, apparently.
Ryan, I was just saying that I was lukewarm on this originally, and it grew in my estimation in the years since seeing it, and I would like to revisit it for this series.
Yeah, Ryan, did you happen to listen to the original episode that we recorded in 2021?
I did, yeah. It was a good one,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
It was, yeah. I listened to it this morning at 1.5 speed. So the hour and 30 minutes went by in about an hour.
Yeah.
Which is recommended. That's the speed that's recommended for most of our listeners because 2x is just too fast.
Yeah. No, I went through all the speeds to try and get through these episodes because I watched both movies yesterday and I listened to each podcast yesterday.
Wow.
So I was like,
Really
piling it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, both episodes, we'll talk about the whale one for next week, but the pig episode is pretty good. And I was a little disappointed I don't feel I have a lot to add to my feelings I had the first time. Because I was going over my notes, I was watching it and then listening to it. And I was like, oh yeah, Ken, you know what? You made some good points there. I do have a few new points, but I really don't have a lot to add.
I feel like I've gotten just more trenchant. Like I had the same reaction that I did the first time, but did not recall my first time's reaction, which is why I have a spouse, because she leaned over and said, that's what you said the last time we watched this.
I thought I was surprised. I listened to the episode before watching the film.
Oh, really?
And I actually listened to it in 2021 too, because I was interested in seeing the film when it came out. But at that time, because we had a small child, I wasn't going to the movies, even though
Liar.
Liar.
What? In that episode, I talk about hanging out with you and watching Tenet that same week.
No, he
does.
I didn't go to see Tenet in a movie theater.
We watched it in 70 millimeter together.
No, I have not seen Tenet in a picture house ever.
Whoa! Holy cow! Are there two Ryans?
You drove me home.
I'll check the letterbox to see if I'm somehow mistaken.
Holy shit!
Are you listening to the episode right now?
I opened my phone and it automatically started the F. Yeah.
Wow.
For a second, we were having a real-time deja vu flashback.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. While Ryan does that,
we're going to play back the entire episode off our phones into the microphone for the next hour and a half.
And just
huddle.
I'll just hold my phone up to the microphone, and then we'll do live over-the-air commentary on our own original reactions.
So there's two podcasts at once, and there's two Ryans. This is like a Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh, fuck.
Charlie Kaufman.
You might, if Pig came out in July of 2021, then
you saw it in 70 millimeter on July 17th, 2021.
Oh, Letterboxd.
I did.
Oh man!
And then you drove Thomas home.
I guess I did.
Caught. Holy
Letterboxd is spying on you.
Sickhead is a powerful thing.
So Pig of 2021, Michael Sorensen, who had his follow-up film come out last year, which was Quiet Place Day One.
Oh yeah, it was the same guy. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Which Jack and I both watched that movie, and
I also fell asleep.
Which has a great opening with a great setup of characters, and then just kind of follows a sequel template of the first two and diminishing returns. But
I've heard that one
really
is
liked
really
his,
good.
I liked his setup with the characters and the situation was a nice take. Very unique, but then it didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
He trades a pig for a cat in that, right?
Yes. Yeah. So Pig, I know Thomas did a very lengthy synopsis of Pig in the original episode, but it's Nicolas Cage has a pig who finds truffles, sells them to a guy named Amir from Portland, and his pig gets kidnapped one day from some competing truffle hunters. He goes back into town. Turns out he hasn't been in town for a decade plus because he's depressed because of his dead spouse or dead girlfriend. And he goes around town to try and find his pig along with Amir, who talks big, but really is quite small when it comes down to it, who has a famous dad, who's a criminal restaurateur.
Is that redundant?
Supplier.
I don't know.
Restaurant supplier, even. He's not even a restaurant. Yeah.
And what first starts out like a bit of a mystery, like how they're going to find it, has some detours into an underground fight club where people who work in restaurants get to bid to be able to punch like their boss for a minute. And if the boss doesn't fall down, he gets all the money.
Yeah,
anyway,
the whole thing is sort of grounded, but also sort of an absurdist
ridiculous
take on like underground dark restaurant culture.
Yeah. That
where
was
everything is crime.
Yeah.
what you said, Jack, is why this movie just completely did not work for me at all. The sort of grounded, sort of fantastical. It was just hard no from the jump.
This is like Death Becomes Her, where I was thinking of Pig, and I was like, man, we're all going to be the ones that are okay about it, and Ryan's just going to love it.
Right.
No, I hated this movie.
Wow.
I could
Really?
I not in a way where it's like I could see how it could work for other people. It just totally did not work for me. I did not.
Were you on board at any point, or were you gone from minute one of like washing the pan in the water?
Oh no, when he was in the forest and it was just him and his pig, I was open to what could happen. But as soon as Amir showed up, it was just like, this is not a real person. Nothing about this is believable at all. And then when it tried to emotionally deepen, because I didn't believe a second of it. And so it was just the more serious it tried to become, the less I was able to go with.
And this is, you had listened to the podcast prior, so you knew what was going to happen.
Yes. And from listening to the podcast initially, both in 2021 and then re-listening, both times my reaction was, this sounds like a fucking good movie. What is Jack's problem? And I remember even talking to you guys at the time and just, you all were genuinely underwhelmed a little bit compared to what I, at least when the previews came out, I thought it was going to be a great Cage, picture. And so you guys were underwhelmed at the time, and I thought that was weird. And then listening back, I was like, yeah, it sounds like they're describing the type of movie that I would like. And in fact, at one point in the original pod, one of you guys asked, like, Jack, you liked Mandy, you like a bunch of the Cage stuff that happens in this, but you don't like this. And Jack's like, I know, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it was kind of that way for me as well, where it's like a lot of these pieces should really work for me, and it just entirely did not. And I'm not.
Well, that's an interesting take going into it, knowing what the movie is about and having so many years behind it, because I think we should talk a little bit about the marketing originally. This was marketed as like a horror revenge thriller.
Yeah, John Wick with a pig.
Wick with a pig. And a lot of people were comparing it to Mandy when it came out. And I think my initial reaction was I was expecting some revenge. And when there wasn't any revenge, I was like, it kind of peters out. I was kind of like, what's the point? The revenge was a dinner? It's not revenge. You got a free dinner. But yeah, and I think having put so many years behind it, going into it, knowing what the movie is, I think it works a little bit better. The pieces that actually, would one of you remind me what my problem was with it originally? Because I didn't listen to the pod again. Does anyone know?
I mean, I feel that it was similar to what I kind of bumped up against, where part of the big problem for me with the movie, and again, Jack, I think this is what you were kind of getting at, is there's a lot of grounded realism in the presentation of each situation, but there's like an air of fantasy in the background. Like the Fight Club is like a little bit past reality, a little bit surreal. But for me, there wasn't enough description or explanation or exposition of why anything is happening. And I felt that you were really thrown off by it not being a revenge film, and then confused by the tonal changes throughout. But maybe not expecting a revenge film, maybe those tonal changes work better for you this time.
I think the first time, and on the podcast, I felt like I was, when they went to the trailer with the tweakers, who were the ones that attacked him initially and kidnapped the pig, when the sense of that movie not having any physical violence underneath that was simmering, that's when I realized that the movie wasn't going to be an action revenge movie. And I settled in a little bit. And I think 4 years later, expectations no longer being a concern, I settled into the movie a little quicker. And then some of the things that bugged me stood out more the second time. And the things that I liked just as much, if not more.
Yeah, I just think I grew a little bit more trenchant, and I think I've created a better understanding. I don't think I said this in the first episode, but I think that there's two movies here, or two focuses. One is like a Being There Forrest Gump movie, where Cage is just kind of like floating
Yeah.
through different things, especially when he meets the young boy with the drum.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second is what we said, the John Wick thing, which is what the poster seems to suggest as well. To me, it doesn't seem like he's depressed in that poster. It seems like because he's kind of faded into the black abyss of the background. It seems like
Yeah.
he's emerging to go full Liam Neeson on some people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Neon released this movie, and then you go 3 years later with Longlegs, which has one of the best marketing campaigns of any movie I've seen in years. And it's interesting how they marketed Pig as being completely different than it was. A real bait and switch, I think, for a lot of audiences. It probably pissed a few people off, I would imagine.
I feel like it's the same thing for Longlegs because they try to market that as a film.
Yeah, Longlegs is one where the more I think about it, the more I hate it.
But I don't think I don't think the movie is a different movie than the trailers promised for Longlegs. I just don't think it was as good as it's. I mean, you can say the same thing about Pacific Rim, which looked like the greatest movie of all time.
Whatever.
Turned out to be a piece of shit.
Pacific
I will
Rim
die
is a
on that hill.
masterpiece.
Shut up.
Yeah, with Pig, I know it did piss a lot of people off. But I think the other question is like, how would you even market this? Because it's such a weird. I love that this movie exists. I love so much about it, and I think what you said about the things that you like just as much. But the things that really stand out on a second viewing.
Yeah.
Here's what I think the problem might have been, or some of the problem, because one of the things I was excited to do was check this movie out from the Multnomah County Library.
Shout out.
Because there was special features. And some of those bonus features include Nicolas Cage learning how to cook everything. Stupid, boring. But and long, like 30 minutes, 30-minute segments of him just cooking and learning how to cook the stuff you'll see in the film. But there's deleted scenes. I think as I like churn through the problem of the film, I think what happened at some point was that they needed to punch up the film. And so they added the Fight Club underground thing.
Oh.
Because if you take it out, the film is very even throughout.
That's actually, if that section wasn't in it, then I would probably feel exactly the opposite as I do about this picture.
What?
That section totally broke because why the fuck are they there? What is
that's so
as a
weird to me.
As a restaurateur, what is your motivation for going and get the shit beaten out of you by people who work for you? Like, what's
to prove you are the top chef and no one can take you down after punching you for 60 seconds?
No, I think that there's something in the film itself, and I don't think you can watch it with it. I don't think the film lends itself to it. I think that's an issue with the direction. But I think that the whole film, a very interesting read, is that Cage is a hermit, like a religious hermit, and he just needs punishment. He needs the pain, the aesthetic pain, to be able to process and heal himself. And along the way, like Forrest Gump or being there, he helps other people almost inadvertently. But the Fight Club thing, even though it's not really a fight club, he doesn't fight back. He just gets pummeled. It's just it's shot, and it feels kind of like it's supposed to be an action moment.
So
and the idea that he's maybe going to find his pig has a sense of menace to it. And even when he's in the trailer, I still feel like Ken said that he realized it was a different film. I still watch that and think that he's just choosing his moment for violence versus being a humble person who's not going like a high noon Quaker.
Or Steven Seagal in Under Siege, who also plays a cook who, when pushed to the edge, has a rap sheet of what a badass he actually is.
Well, that's really interesting to me.
The one on the train? No, I'm talking about the one on the boat.
Oh, okay.
That segment does feel a little out of place, and it does feel odd tonally with the rest of the film, but that's probably my favorite thing about this movie.
Well, and it's hard because it doesn't feel like you have any sizzle to your movie if you take that out.
Yeah.
I think it does lend itself to the whole notion of this widespread underground, funneling food to upscale restaurants. It's really kind of funny if you stop to think about it. And I think it's of a piece with that, like all of the truffle stuff and the lady saying, "Oh, they're not going to take anybody's pig," and then she drives him out to the the tweakers who took it. It feels very on the page. It could seem almost absurd, but the way it's directed, I mean, it's such a glum, steady, low speed direction that it all felt of a piece to me anyway.
Well, you kind of need the underground menace or violence to be able to give Amir's father
Yes.
a sense of gravitas and danger.
Yeah. Yeah, but even when he meets Edgar, not Edgar Wright, as we said in the first episode, when he meets him at the food carts, he's like in a really dingy, canvas-covered little tent writing paperwork, and he's like one of those intermediaries in a crime film.
Yeah,
that's taking down numbers for the big crime boss.
So if you didn't get at that point or during the truffle people in the woods that this is a more fantastical film, I think the underground scene is when, especially the first time watching it, that tone really turns for you. And especially because, you know, we're all from Portland or around Portland, right?
Uh-huh.
And the Shanghai tunnels is this local legend, and it doesn't actually exist. There aren't any series, networks of tunnels underneath the downtown area. There couldn't be because they would all flood. But at that point, I think originally watching it, when they go underneath downtown into these tunnels, that's when I'm thinking, oh, okay, I get the tone at this point, that this is a fantasy.
Yeah, for me, the problem is that the cooking of the dinner doesn't pay off in the way that the tone of the film is set. Not even really set it up.
That I think it's not. I actually think the cooking of the dinner is one of the coolest pieces of revenge I've seen in a movie. It's what happens directly after that takes all the air out of the balloon.
Yeah, I don't buy it at all.
I would say the pig. On the first episode, I was like, I'm not a big fan of stories where they're looking for someone or something, and it's been dead the entire time. I hate that. And in this movie, because I was thinking, I had this weird thought watching it, where if this was a mid 1970s movie and it was like a more dramatic role for Charles Bronson, and then Jan Michael Vincent, like in The Mechanic, but they re-teamed up and he played the Amir character, and the story was exactly the same, except the pig was still alive, and the movie ended with Charles Bronson and the pig in the forest resuming their life. It would be considered one of Charles Bronson's best movies. And I think that it lends itself to a smaller scale, 70s style movie, and particularly the plot, which seems like it's missing a few things.
Yeah,
to make it feel like a full meal. Get it?
Uh-huh.
It really feels like there's no moment where we get to see Cage as other people saw him in the past. I don't need a flashback or anything. But, like in road movies, like the movie we watched for the VHS special, Scarecrow, there's that interlude where I don't know if it's Al Pacino or Gene Hackman's friends, but they visit those two ladies in the house, and it kind of is a life they could have had. And then it makes the ending of that movie more tragic. It really felt like this story needed that moment. And it doesn't have to be a big moment or a long extended sequence, but I really felt there was something missing that I needed for the ending to really pay off.
Yeah. Or if it is, if there really is this fantasy, shadowy world of underground cooks and ingredients and stuff like that, like go there, like show us more of that and make that more something explicable, something you can wrap your head around in the movie, but either make it more of a straight dramatic play or really dig into the fantastical elements and explore that. But it just didn't. It tried to split the baby, and neither side really ended up working for me.
There's still the scene with Discount Stephen Tobolowsky, the restaurateur guy, the chef, which is still that's the scene where Nicolas Cage, if he had gotten an Oscar, that would have been the one they showed.
Because of this half serious, half fantastic shadow world thing, I felt like Nick Cage was talking to the director. The director was the one who was making something immaterial and insignificant for other people when he should just make something that fucking makes sense and tells a good story.
Whoa.
Wow.
So I thought that scene was very ironic because it's like, yeah, I do not believe anything that's happening now, and it's ironic that you're yelling at this guy for being a
Wow.
fabulist, and that's what you're doing, buddy. Smarnovsky or whatever his name is.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long do you think his restaurant was open? Do you think it was just open for like one night, and that's why he remembers everything he's ever cooked, and everybody was
No, some people just have a photographic memory. It's like when they read his dossier when he starts killing people, and he's like, Army Ranger, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he has a photographic memory.
This pig never forgets.
I definitely agree with what you're saying about it needing a little extra ingredient in there, perhaps.
Yep.
And part of that, when that really comes off to me, is during like the title cards, which I definitely remember on the original episode.
I fucking hated them.
You hated
so
them.
much.
And I felt the exact same way this time. I was like, give me a fucking break. I don't need 3-act title cards that describe the meal, that describe the act of the movie that
I
we're
am
watching.
100% on Jack's side on this. I think they don't serve a purpose. I fucking hate it. It's not really broken up in chapters, really, anyway.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's dumb.
And the score also was the other thing that I noticed this time, just constantly throughout. Really, really bothered me. If this movie had no music at all, I think it would work so much better. No music, no title cards. I think I would give this movie an extra Michelin star.
And I don't think we discussed it, but Portland as the background. I mean, obviously there's a stupid montage with like the Portland sign and whatnot. It's
I
kind of
like that.
I kind of feel it's one of those we give you a tax break if you include that shit in it, and they had to do it. But I felt that Portland might have been the wrong place to have this movie take
100%. Amir is
because I was thinking, okay, hear me out.
Yeah.
He's in rural Louisiana, same deal, and the city he used to be the great big cock chef in was New Orleans.
Yeah.
And that's where he goes. New Orleans is about the same size as Portland. It's not a big city, but it's more famous because it has an ambiance of culture and a deep culinary history. And also living out in the woods in Louisiana is a little more badass than the ideal tranquil forest of Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, is that just because we're too close? Like, if someone who lived on the other side of the country and had never been to Portland watched this, would they probably wouldn't bump up against that?
I think the history of New Orleans carries with it something narratively that a place like Portland doesn't.
I think 100% there, Ken, because I think we talked about this on the original episode.
Yeah.
There's a sense of Europeanness, and to me, New Orleans for the States is the most European city that we have.
Yes.
You need a city. I thought about what you were saying, Jack, if it was that because I'm from here that I bumped up against it. But I think the story works so much better if it's a place that is known for a long culinary tradition. Like Portland's only been a foodie town for 15 years. So I guess that's enough time for Nick Cage to come in and be a big hit and then go away as a hermit. But if it's in France or New Orleans or someplace where like the culinary culture is hundreds of years old, then this whole shadowy network of supply, like all the mystery and fantasy about this story clicks into place a lot better for me. But it's also that, and this is probably where it is being from here, Amir is just not a person who exists in Portland. That car doesn't exist. No one dresses like him. No one talks like him. It's not. That's not a Portland.
Come to the West Side.
We have bros, but they're not like that. They're hoodie wearing tech bros in Cybertrucks. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not 3-piece suit 25-year-olds driving $70,000 sports cars.
I agree with that. I've never seen or interacted with a person like that in Portland, Oregon. And I think logically all you guys are correct, but I just love seeing a movie set in Portland.
Yeah.
I love the HBO series Here and Now. Terrible, absolutely unwatchable, but it's all filmed in Portland.
It's also one of the best TV shows of all time.
It is, yeah.
Because of how terrible it was.
We do have a beautiful city that's very cinematic, and it is great whenever somebody captures a little of it. And there was some great shots of, I love the way he looked at the neighborhoods and stuff. And
Yeah, like the montage stuff I'm not a big fan of, but the location work otherwise is pretty fun.
It did actually make me laugh when we see him on the street and he's looking up at this house, and then we hard cut to the house he's looking at, and it looks exactly like every single house in Portland.
Oh, that's the house with the little kid where he looks like the guy from Twin Peaks, season 3, episode 8.
Oh yeah,
I
Yeah.
kept expecting him to say, "You got a light," or "This is the water and this is the well. Drink full and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes and dark within."
Good job.
Thank you.
that was something I was wondering about, because another thought that I had, like early on, Amir insinuates that he smells really bad and doesn't shower.
Yeah.
And he's all beat to shit and covered in blood and dirt and stuff, and he's shambling around, and I don't understand what element that's supposed to be, like, tonally. Like, is it supposed to be funny, or is it supposed to be part of this fantasy? Because you're not going in to one of those fancy, swanky restaurants smelling like you haven't showered in 15 years.
I disagree in Portland. If he is with a young guy that looks like he owns the building and is with him, they're going to think he's some sort of artist.
Oh, I thought it was like, look at this nice young man giving this homeless guy a meal.
And the jokes of people like the discount Stephen Tobolowsky guy saying, do you need medical attention? And then the little kid saying, "Are you hurt?"
Yeah. Discount Stephen Tobolowsky was great. Like that.
He
one.
was.
It was a
That's
fantastic
like my
performance.
favorite scene in the entire movie. That and the subduction of Portland's going to be underwater.
Oh yeah.
Then "Fuck Seattle" is also a classic.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
line. I don't know why that's not a meme.
Yeah, me either. I think also my favorites is just whenever he grabs the bike and he yells at somebody off, and you ever see the person, he just like barks at him in this way, which is amazing. Which I would be on my clip for the Oscars. But when you mentioned the subduction zone and all of this being underwater, which is untrue, right? Like the tsunami is not going to go that far inland.
No, we got the coastal range protecting us, right? Right? Unless they fall into the ocean.
I bump up against that a little bit, just like, oh, well, actually, I push my glasses up on the bridge of my nose and explain to the people next to me in the theater, the ones that are going to sleep, that's not going to happen.
Jenny has a 20-minute long lecture about the nature of geological time and how we fundamentally misunderstand this thing. So I get where you're coming from, Thomas, because I get this lecture quite often, actually.
Does she have a PowerPoint that she could send us?
Probably.
Put it on the socials.
Don't sit in a movie theater with Jenny and myself. Not gonna get much of the movie. No,
or Jack, because he'll be snoring.
Yeah. Actually, on the DVD, I was looking for an optional track where you could just add in the snoring to be back like my original experience, and it's not there. So big deduction there. No, on the DVD, the reason that just triggered for me, or I remembered from that, there's a few different deleted scenes. Most of them seem really unnecessary to shoot, like Nicolas Cage cleaning up the blood after his attack and putting a new lock on the door. It does make him a little bit more humble, but it does just like slow the film down. There was a longer morning scene between Amir and Cage, not morning with a U, but the day after, as Amir is about to pump himself up and go to the butcher, where they just talk a little bit more. Again, not a scene that's really necessary for the film. The third scene is completely unnecessary, but interesting that they wrote it, shot it, and had it in the film at some point. And that is a scene early in the film we don't see, which would be Cage waiting for Amir to show up at the diner that we say is in Sandy, Oregon. So Cage has been injured, comes into town. He calls Amir to help him out. We see him outside waiting, and he's waiting with somebody who's like in a chair, just also sitting outside, staring at the road. We don't see the person. We don't get until the very end, and even then, it's not a reveal of anybody that we've seen in the film. But this person talks about how he hasn't seen his kids, and it's good to that. Basically, it's he's separated from his family, and that's because they've driven off of a bridge into the water. He wonders maybe if they did fall into the water, if they would be able to swim and survive. It's a very strange, almost Lynchian scene. of a stranger giving a monologue, like a Jack Vance monologue in Wild at Heart that we covered, where he's like, I got a dog. Now, while you might mentally picture my dog, my dog barks. It's just like this random like words coming out of somebody's mouth. And the only thing I can think is that person recognizes Cage and is talking about Nicolas Cage accidentally killing his family in a car accident. Otherwise, it makes no sense in the film.
What?
And so there might have been a backstory at some point where Cage drove into the river or something, or is responsible for his wife's death.
Jesus.
Wow. That
Because we
sounds
don't
great.
know how or why she
dark.
died, do we? We just know that she did.
Yeah.
And what's weird is, and the mortuary doesn't say anything about his family other than his wife, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a very strange scene. Only thing it might be is just to say that people in Oregon outside of Portland are tweakers and strangers.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I wish they kept that.
Yeah,
in.
that does sound great. So Amir gets his little character arc where we get to see him strutting and being the man, and then we see him at the butcher, and he's kind of small and almost childlike, asking the guy for the reservation. And then we see him with his dad. He has a really complicated relationship with other people, and we never really get that with Cage. So it almost feels like there's a lot of weight on Amir, where we get to reveal things about him, and then nothing with Cage. Not that I need that, but it does seem a little lopsided. The second viewing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because a lot of the film isn't about Cage in some way, and I think it's that being there, Forrest Gump thing.
That's what I was going to say, Thomas.
Yeah, because I don't think that the meal that he cooks is necessarily revenge. It seems like a reconciliation, like forcing the person to acknowledge something that's happened in their past, to like break them down to the level of being a human being, so that you can have a conversation. And
that it's actually, talking about it, it's a beautiful thing that for me was kind of lost in the way that the thing was presented. But to Thomas's point, him being their type character, where he's kind of just a mirror showing everyone their true,
not a mirror, but
not a mirror, but a
looking
mirror.
glass.
Yes, a looking glass, showing everyone their true kind of insecurities and their true issues. And through this trip to Portland and the death of his pig, that the trip to Portland serves the same thing for Cage. So at the end, he sublimated all of his love for his wife into the pig, and then the pig dies. And so now he's finally able to deal with his wife's death. So that's a nice little storytelling trick that didn't really work for me, but
because as a viewer, we are invested in the pig, because I know off camera the pig was a fucking asshole to Cage. But the pig is adorable.
Yeah.
And not having that narratively. I mean, so I was thinking, well, what could they have done differently? Obviously finding the pig alive and going back to the Charles Bronson ending I mentioned. Or it's like he after Alan Arkin's crying, he just goes to his office and gives him an address, and they go to a farm, and Nicolas Cage walks up and his pig is there with a bunch of other pigs, and it looks happy. He turns around, walks away, and Amir's like, what are you doing? There's the pig. There's all our truffles. He goes, there's never about the pig was never the one finding the truffles.
Yeah.
Trees.
Yeah.
Why did we do all this? And then he just says, I love that pig. And he gets in the car, doesn't explain it anymore.
Yeah.
The ending would still be the same, because he's still accepting.
Right.
Then you could almost say, well, is his wife even dead?
Right.
She could have just been a bad breakup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what matters is him getting over it. And I think taking the pig from us as a viewer who have just watched 90 minutes of someone searching for this adorable little almost cartoon-like pig really took the air out of the balloon of the entire story for me, and just made me feel a bit meh.
Yeah.
In the end, because it's kind of mean.
Yeah, totally.
And what you're saying can make sense, because it doesn't work. We don't get enough from Cage in his trip to Portland about his backstory and why all of this is emotionally resonant with him. If the pig stays alive, we do have an emotional connection from those 3 minutes at the beginning of the movie to the pig. So the ending you laid out is a lot more efficient with what we've been given, as far as if there was a scene in the middle where Nick Cage breaks down and talks about his wife, then as he processes the death of the pig and goes back home, that might have worked better. But lacking that revelation, keeping the connection to the pig all the way through would be very handy indeed.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, the ending is totally flat. I love the revenge dinner. I think that's a great scene.
I love the last shot, the Aronofsky shot of the bright white light above him.
Yeah.
But he could have reached that level of acceptance with the pig still being alive and being happy with its pig friends.
I would personally love it if what you said, Ken, the pig stays alive and we find out that his girlfriend or wife isn't even dead. It was just a shitty breakup. He's a very sensitive person, and this is what it took for him to get over it. Like that's
I would relate to it even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Cage is outside. Cage is outside of her house wearing like a pig mask,
holding a boombox, playing in your eyes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's much better. I wrote down as a note this last time. I didn't feel maybe as much in the first viewing, but the end really feels itself. Like it goes on a little bit long for me. I don't mind slowness. It's just that it seems to think that it's more important than what it actually is.
Yeah. I kind of almost wish I had picked a different movie to rewatch, because I think if I never rewatched this movie, it would be great in my
But no,
head.
this is the whole idea behind doing a Redux, where it's like movies you've thought about, and they may not be what you thought they were on rewatching.
Yeah, and I think I don't have the same opinion. I don't feel the same way about the movie as I did 4 years ago, but I feel the same way about it in terms of how much I dislike it, but for different reasons this time, except for the title cards, which I think have remained.
I think that maybe the bulb when we saw the theater originally was growing dim, because it looked a lot better on my TV last night than it did in the theater 4 years ago. I thought the cinematography was great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
I do like that for me, Mandy was Cage being back. Like, this is everything I've ever wanted from a Nicolas Cage performance. But I feel like for a lot of cinema culture, for whom Mandy was too weird or too outro or just too obscure, this was the announcement of Nick Cage returning and being a serious actor again. And I'm glad he got that moment. I'm glad he got the shine and is getting to do bigger, better movies now.
Yeah. This is maybe my favorite Nicolas Cage performance. Up there with
it's no Joe.
Wow, that's amazing. For me,
Joe
this
is my favorite that we did.
I still want to see Joe, but for me, this was like not even trying. This is just, I just think he's such an amazing actor, and I think he's barely giving you a pinky in this
100% disagree. I think he is acting with his physicality in this movie in a way that we haven't seen from him before or since, where he's just like a Hulk.
Yeah.
It's in so many scenes.
I'm not at all criticizing his performance. I guess in watching this, I realized how, and I really enjoy Gonzo Nick Cage and Gonzo filmmaking in general, but seeing this made me realize, like, oh, Nick Cage might be the greatest actor alive because he's barely trying, and this is as good as what most actors can give you at the top of their game. But for me, this was like bargain basement Cage. So
I guess I'm going to weigh in and just say I disagree. I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
Yes, I agree.
And one of the things I love is how we don't actually do we get any real rage?
Well, he barks at the kid with the bike.
But yeah, so for the most part, it's pretty quiet.
Yeah. Ryan, what's your favorite Cage performance? I'm curious now. What's the best one?
Oh, at this point, it's got to be Mandy. Just Mandy is the total.
Well, as we wanted to talk about last week, it would have been adaptation.
I feel that the tone of Mandy is the only film that matches the way Cage approaches his performance. Vampire's Kiss too, but it doesn't. That one's a little too low budget maybe to really achieve its goals, but that's another movie where Cage and the filmmaker are just as insane and just vibing. You know?
All right, I have I did a question that I'm answering myself. It's what ingredients In the film Pig are the characters. So the pig itself, the titular pig, is the appetizer. It appears at the beginning, sets everything up. Nicolas Cage is the main course, the chicken or the steak, the protein. Amir is the accompanying complimentary wine throughout the meal.
Mhm.
Alan Arkin is the scallops that complement the main course or the dessert, perhaps. And Amir's mom is the vegetable course.
Oh,
Jesus.
that was
Be
not
here all
worth
week.
it.
Well worth it.
It was worth
And-
it for Thomas's reaction.
And no pie
No pie.
at the end of the meal.
No Aronofsky.
Jack, you're lucky you get to escape.
Yeah. I really wanted to watch The Whale. I'm disappointed. I want to hear you guys argue about it.
You should listen to I listened to the original episode last week. I would recommend anybody listening to this to go listen to that original episode from early last year. Yeah, because I was pissed off at Ryan all over again. I was
Wait,
talking
you're
to
talking
my
about the
phone.
whale. Okay, yeah.
I was talking at my phone while I was listening to it.
Hey, let's save our reactions to re-listening to the episode for next week.
Yeah.
I had a few. I thought I did extremely well, and I'm not going to be extremely well next week. But I do appreciate being able to go back and listen to the old episodes and do some new research. I found out in 2017 that KFC released some truffles, not what the pig was looking for, not mushrooms or fungus, but the chocolate confection. So Kentucky Fried Chicken released truffles in New Zealand as a partnership with Keiko Chocolate. And so, if nothing else, thank you, Jack, for letting me learn that piece of information.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good job. And it was great to see Portland before the riots again.
Yeah.
Before the riots
Before
destroyed
they stole
all
it all.
downtown. Yeah.
Oh, Jack, from the original episode, have you had a chance to see Babe or Babe 2?
Pig in the City.
I haven't seen Babe or Babe 2 Pig in the City. Sorry.
Jack,
They're both
love
masterpieces.
Pig in the City. Babe, they're both great, but Babe 2 Pig in the City, that's your huckleberry.
That's Gonzo right there.
That's what I've heard.
As you were saying, Ryan, I
Yeah.
love Gonzo, and that's George Miller at his most Road Warrior, Fury Road Gonzo-ish.
Love
For
it.
sure. Which role in this film would be best improved by Roseanne Barr being cast?
Jesus
And
Christ.
not the pig, though.
Yeah, I said that
Too
that was
obvious.
off limits. I said that the pig was definitely off limits.
Uh-huh.
But I do think it'd be interesting if we play the tape at the end and it is Roseanne Barr's voice singing. Because I hear she's great as a singer.
As a rapper.
As a rapper, if you want your national anthem song.
Yeah. He turns
she
it on and
is-
it's her doing the national anthem.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And if this movie were a Bob Dylan song, it would be She Belongs to Me, because the pig belongs to him.
Very good.
Thank
well
you.
done.
That's only one of those is our viral marketing for a complete unknown. We'll let you know which one that is. later episode.
Thanks to Ryan for our lovely theme song.
Thank you, Ryan.
I just think Amir would have been great. Roseanne as Amir.
Yes.
Disagree.
kicking my car?
Jesus.
Wow.
Not
That
the
was- No. Maggie, save me.
Brother.
Listen, Dan, I have a reputation to uphold.
All right. Good stuff, fellas.
Yep.
Thomas, you want to
Yeah.
lead us out? Okay.
Oh, follow us on social medias. Ron to tell you more.
We are on Blue Sky. We are on Instagram, but don't go there. Not because our
That's it?
account sucks, because Zuck's a fascist. Like, don't support fascists. Go to Blue Sky.
All our podcasts from 2024 on are now available on YouTube as well.
Woo!
So that has
Visual
been-
content to come.
Ooh, gross. Podcast over.
All right.
See you guys for the whale.
Yeah. 3 or 4 of us.
Yes. Thanks for joining us, Jack. We will see you maybe the next pairing.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Good luck hunting
Right.
those truffles, Jack.
I'm not talking
Yep,
at you.
he's going truffle
I'm
hunt. See you
talking
guys.
to you. I don't want to hear about you. I want to hear from you. It's 10-4. 10-4, buddies. Destroy. Kill all hippies.
I don't hate it. I just don't know why you strayed from the formula.
You bastard! In case you don't know it, Bob, I'm an artist. And I must reflect that in my rhyme.
Why y'all sleeping on this?
Right?
Do the research.
I got boogers coming out my eyes, man.
Letterbox is spying on you.